On the last stop before reaching the sixth Sunday after the Epiphany, worshipers board the AECST Express on their way to the feast of Absalom Jones. On board and excited about St. Thomas and the legacy of Blessed Absalom is none other than the Most Reverend Michael Curry, the 27th Presiding Bishop and Primate of the Episcopal Church. And as the Express readies and pulls away from the station to the feast of Absalom Jones, the Presiding Bishop shares to eager listening ears the bounty and the spirit of Blessed Absalom.
Hello to Father Martini Shaw and to all of my brothers, sisters, and siblings of the St. Thomas First African Episcopal Church family. On this, the observance of the Feast of Blessed Absalom Jones, it is a real privilege to say a word to you as you begin this celebration and this observance. It is a significant fact that the movement of the Free African Society, movement of Richard Allen and Absalom Jones, and eventually the founding of St. Thomas First African Episcopal Church as the mother church of historically Black congregations in the Episcopal Church, that movement and the work and ministry of Absalom Jones to help to make the Episcopal Church reflective of the vision of Jesus, a house of prayer for all people, a truly Catholic community, Catholic meaning universal. We might even say today, inclusive. They worked and labored for that to be a reality. It may be salient for us to remember in our time that Absalom Jones did much of his work during the time of the yellow fever, a pandemic that hit this country and caused sickness and hardship and death. That in that time of pandemic, Richard Allen, Absalom Jones drove ambulances, took care of the sick, didn't flee the city, but stayed in the city to be instruments of God's healing. They did that to heal the body, and their work to make the church for all people, where all of God's children are welcomed, cherished, empowered, and sent forth to bear witness to God's love, and the way of love as Jesus taught us. It's important to remember that the Free African Society, St. Thomas Church, had their origins in a time of a biological pandemic. But their origins were part of another pandemic, the pandemic of racism, white supremacy, injustice that led to the oppression of the native peoples of the land, of African peoples, and so many others. And yet they stood up for love. They stood up for the way of Jesus. And they worked that this country might reflect the truths of its founding, in spite of its hypocrisy. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is the dream of God. This is the will of God. And Absalom Jones labored in his time of a biological pandemic and a sociological pandemic. And we must follow in his footsteps as he followed in the footsteps of Jesus. God love you. God bless you. May God hold us all in those almighty hands of love.
One sunset from the Feast of Absalom Jones, we invite you to join us in person on the sixth Sunday after the Epiphany at the historic African Episcopal Church of St. Thomas, Philadelphia, where the gospel is reimagined, taught, lived, and spread. A sacred space where your mask covers your face and your spirit covers your faith. The historic St. Thomas welcomes you.